Welcome back to Coaches Exploring the Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. And today we're reviewing Chapter 7, Transcending the Tendency to Close. And this chapter is all about not closing and more about the energy, which I found super educational. And a lot of the stuff is thinking about my existence in terms of energy has been kind of new and insightful for me. The first thing I highlighted about halfway down the first page for me was it is not difficult to see that the most primal energy flow is their survival instinct. And for me, when I think about that, it's just how, just the ease of the word primal, like just how natural it is, how necessary it is. I don't know. For me, it's just like it lets me just kind of go, like it doesn't require any effort. It's just like part of your, I want to say DNA, but that's probably the wrong way to think about it. But just the primal nature of it.
And it's almost the most obvious, isn't it? It sort of when you stop and think, like well, of course it is. And just, I mean, right at the beginning as well, I love the way he started this chapter, because I still think it's, let's say, a Western tendency to ignore a spiritual and energetic sort of approach. And just, the first two sentences, the foundations of spiritual growth and personal awakening are very much strengthened by the findings of Western science. That kind of, because I don't think sort of since Descartes ever wrote anything about anything and separation and all the rest of it, I think the Western world sort of has been taken wildly off track. Just those two nice little, just that first sentence. Hey guys, this is for you as well. It's not some woo-woo stuff that, you can like it or leave it. That's what it sort of said to me. And it kind of set me up to read this, to where you started, Greg, with like, it's not difficult to see that the most, as you said, primal energy flows, the survival instinct. Well, now it's sort of becoming very, let's say, like, this is it, guys. Rather than, well, it's a matter of opinion. Yeah.
I think your reference to the science of it too, like that's something that struck me to this point in the book too, is it seems like to me, Western science has kind of come full circle. Like it started by kind of like, let's disprove all this spiritual nonsense with the scientific method. And then years and years and decades later, it's like, oh, yeah, it's all energy. It's all spiritual. It's,
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it's easier to accept. It's just kind of like that part of my ego or brain or whatever that wants to argue about it can just relax.
Yeah.
I wondered that primal instinct to survive, if that could be considered as a quality of the spirit as well. How we talk about, peace and love and joy there, and, confidence, security, how they're all qualities or aspect of the spirit. And it makes sense to me. Survival, it's inherently there in all of us, not just human beings, but every living being is there.
I got the feeling that it was a very powerful energy, this primal energy. And he goes on to say that our protective instincts have adapted towards defending our psychology. And those are all our fears and anxieties and concerns. It's very interesting to see how that powerful survival instinct has evolved.
Almost as if it's a separate entity, and it's so powerful that it kind of has decided to cling on to something else other than what it's actually made for in origin. So, she says, so it's decided to cling on to our psychological struggles, our inner fears, as you say, Vanessa, insecurities, destructive behavior patterns. I underlined that twice. And then put an exclamation mark beside it, and I thought, oh yeah.
Well, I like the idea of how we've gone from worrying about getting food, water, shelter to the other things. I was thinking about my kids, like, they don't have to worry about any of those physiological things. It's like, is the Wi-Fi signal good in my bedroom or not? Or I remember my son was little. He lost all his Minecraft stuff that he spent a year building, and then, like, the devastation of, like, and it makes me think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, we're, as humankind progresses, we're kind of moving up that model. And kind of to Singer's point, like, this part of us that's there to help us survive and protect us. It's like it's coming up the ladder with us and refocusing.
Yeah,
I like this metaphor of the deer in the headlights kind of thing when we get into a situation that we don't like or that we feel like we need protecting. Because I could immediately imagine or remember all these scenarios that I've been in business meetings or relationships where it's like, oh yeah, I totally had the deer in the headlights, fight or flight, freezer or run kind of instinct kicking in.
And even though it is actually, we're trying to protect the psyche, it doesn't, like, in the moment, it doesn't look or feel like we're trying to protect the psychology. It does look like it's coming from the outside, and it is a survival instincts kicking in, looking like we are in danger. Oh, the Wi-Fi signal's out. I'm going to die because if I X, Y, and Z, or if I'm embarrassed, or if the shame kicks in, or if the fear kicks in, it's like, yeah, my life is out there, but it's all happening in the inner world, which it doesn't look like it in the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the second or third time in the book he's mentioned, where he goes, you are living on a planet spinning around the middle of outer space, and you're either worrying about your blemishes, the scratch on your new car, or the fact that you burped in public. It's not healthy. And when I read that about burping in public in particular, I thought of my dad. Now in his old age, his etiquette is out the window. Like, he just does, and the rest of us are embarrassed by it. And I realized, like, how, who cares, right? Like, when what was occurring to me was all the shoulds that kind of come to mind when you're in a public place or in a restaurant with other people, or how you should behave. It's not to say that I'm an advocate for anarchy or chaos. Like, there's something to be said about being civilized and following the rules. There's a Seinfeld George Costanza line, we're trying to live in a society, people. I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
It really puts it into perspective for me, what you read.
Yeah.
That we're on this planet spinning in space and we're worried about these minor things. It's a miracle that we're alive.
Yeah. It's counterintuitive almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how I see it these
Yeah.
days is, wow, I'm still here spinning through space with all these people. Let's enjoy it.
yeah,
Well, even before the call, we were talking about the daylight savings time change. Like if you think about like what is the root cause of needing to change our clocks? Well, it's because this rock that we're hurtling through the universe on, its orientation to the sun is changed because of the cycle of the orbit, and like, you know, there's a lot more going on than just changing the clock.
mm,
Mm.
It occurs to me the survival instinct, it's like it's innocently misplaced.
Mm.
mm. Yeah. And he says that, I suppose it's sort of in the in my book anyway, it's page 61 at the beginning of the paragraph. You'll get to a point in your growth where you understand that if you protect yourself, you'll never be free. Which just about sums that up, you know, that it's basically a fat waste of time. You know, and he indeed puts it right, and he says it's that simple. And then he goes on to say, you know, now it's dark and you want to feel the sunlight, but you can't. And that's sort of sounds like a, you know, a heading towards perhaps, you know, a psychological depression, if you like, of our own doing, nonetheless. Massive self-sabotage, that's what it sounds to me like. And we all do it all the time, you know, or a lot of the time.
Kind of
Well,
repeats in this chapter the separation of the, you know, your psyche or that voice in your head versus the real you, who you are. You know, like on this pit for me, it's page 98. It's not you, it's what you see. There's simply the pure energy pouring inside of you that creates the ripples of thoughts and emotions. And there's the consciousness that's aware of it. There's simply you watching the dance of the psyche.
Mm.
And I've noticed since we've started kind of reviewing this book, I find myself in that place of observer much more of the time. And the idea of the dance of the psyche, I never really thought of it that way, but it is. It's kind of like watching a dance or you know, a play or a musical going on in front of you, and you can you know, you don't have to fight it. I think he says later on, you know, you don't have to fight it. You don't have to argue with it. You don't have to do anything with it. You can just watch it.
After that bit, Greg, I actually underlined a part. I was saying before we started that I've underlined the whole book, but there was a sort of an extra underlining going on as well, which I wasn't quite sure if I actually fully understood. And maybe we could look at that. And this is what he writes. But it's not just about letting go of thoughts and emotions. It's actually about letting go of the pull of that energy itself has on your consciousness. Now, I read those words and I do indeed understand the English, and I'm kind of following through, but I personally can't see that for myself. And I kind of wonder that if I could, you know, maybe there would be some step forward in my quest to freedom, let's say. So I don't know if you guys noticed that part or have your own take on it.
I also underlined that sentence. And at least for me, the way I took that is it's a practice. Noticing when I notice my thoughts and emotions, that they feel real and they pull me towards that reality. And I'm practicing when I really notice that to step back and see what happens. And I'm not sure, but my idea is that's the pull he's talking about. That's what I'm exploring.
Yeah, the pulling of the consciousness got me really curious too. So it's cool to hear how how you notice that. And I wondered similarly, can the consciousness actually be pulled? I mean, I know Michael talks about in metaphors in a lot of these, and I was playing with that the last, few days, and what occurred to me is it's the identified me that gets pulled into it. For me, from an experiential sense, because the consciousness is neutral. It's constant. It's settled. It's fine. Like it doesn't worry about all these fluctuations per se. But when I'm in the ego self or the identified self, that's the part that gets. That's what made sense to me, but I may not have the complete picture on this yet.
For me, the key is where your focus is, where your consciousness is focused. Am I focused on observing this thought, feeling, emotion stuff that's going on, or am I like focused on observing it, or am I focused on being in it? And it's that the more charged that is, the more it pulls my focus into it. And then instead of observing it, I'm like right in it. You guys know I'm a sports guy, but like when I'm watching the Maple Leafs play, like I'm not in the seat of the observer. I'm in the craziness of a Leafs fan who hasn't won the Stanley Cup for 55 years. And every play is like life or death. And then as soon as the game's over and we've lost and I'm devastated, I fall back out of it and I'm just like, I can leave it there. But it's I don't know, for me, I find there's times when it's fun to be in that chaos of the emotions and the thoughts and be caught up in it.
With that example, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Asanka.
Oh, I was just going to ask, with that example, Greg, which you's focus gets pulled in? Is it the you, the identified self, or it is the you that the consciousness is focused that gets pulled in?
I think the pulling in is this, I don't know, fluctuation of being focused or aware of being the observer versus being focused and aware of being the ego. So it's kind of like I don't know. I think of it kind of like a sliding scale, and it's like it's all the same me, but I'm more in the ego psyche part of me when I'm caught up in the game, and when I'm not, I'm more of the who I really am part of me.
And just as you're all speaking there, what came to me was I wonder if it could also be that the pull that the energy itself has of your consciousness, it's the letting go part, because it will presumably, if we've lived so many years, let's say in the ego mind or in the personal mind, then indeed it's a hard thing to let go of. So there's some aspect of the consciousness that's actually resisting, it's struggling with that. I wonder.
Yeah.
Like maybe going back to your sports reference, like I can't not be upset or happy or joyful or miserable or angry at my team, sort of thing. Who would I be if I just sat there in all my freedom and joy and whatever and watched my team lose?
Yeah.
Who am I then?
Yeah. To me, it feels like
I don't see you doing that, Greg, by the way.
an addiction almost, like it's a self-fulfilling thing. It's like, oh, I need this to survive. And
Yeah.
it kind of keeps pulling you back because it's like, well, I can't live without the Toronto Maple Leafs, or I identify as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I identify, all these things are caught up in who I am. But like, if I don't know, if the NHL went bankrupt tomorrow and there was no more hockey, like my life would carry on,
Yeah.
would be fine. I don't know. It's funny. I had an experience with a young guy that I worked with, and we went to a game in the private box with work. And he was like, "Oh, this is my first Leaf game." I'm like, "Oh, the first time being at a game?" He's like, "No, no, my first time ever even watching a game." I was like, "What?" Like, because when you're in that, like the thought that was a human being who wasn't as into the hockey as I am hadn't even occurred to me that such a person existed.
You mean everybody's like you,
Yeah,
Greg?
yeah. Talk about being caught up in the ego mind, right? Like I have the right version of reality. Come on, guys. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's only one reality, right?
Yeah.
I look at it a little different. I mean, we're human, and there are things that are really fun. Like for you, Greg, not for me, but for you, it would be going to a game. Um, for me, it's like watching a movie. I love movies. I love to get lost in a movie, but I'm happy to come right out of it when it's over. Um, this chapter's about hanging on to disturbances. And if there's no disturbance in that process, seems like you're just being human, letting the experiences go through you.
What does it mean for you? Because I've been wondering about this for myself. For you, when you like being human, what is it that for you?
Well, in this respect, I guess I don't watch movies the same way I used to, but I can give myself permission just to go with it. And there's a pleasure in it. That I think is important. It's about experiencing life, and there's a movie in front of me. There's a hockey game in front of me, and really being present for that and letting it go through me. The problem comes, as he talks about, when you hang on to something that comes up during that experience. And you stop letting the experience just flow through you. So I wonder if in that case it's a pull, or if it's just an experience that you're letting go through you and you're fully enjoying it. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, no, I'm dabbling in this pool as well, because I wonder when I'm in that space of just watching it all, letting it flow through me, it's like I'm not in the human aspect. I'm more in the spirit aspect. And when I'm in the human aspect is where I'm worried about the burp in the public versus, I'm worried if the game, is lost or not, and or that kind of stuff that we're talking about here. That's the human element for me, where it's all outside in, so to speak. It's like consciousness, spirit. No, it doesn't even equate. But when I'm in that other space, well, now I'm being the spirit having a human experience. But again, I don't have a landing on this because it gets a little bit very esoteric, this space.
In a way, we're talking about the same thing, I think. You highlighted a different aspect of it, which I hadn't thought of, but it's true for me too. That's the bit about getting caught up in it when you get lost in it, when you care about the outcome.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if it's sort of also could be interpreted like that pull of energy is actually like I'm here to enjoy the hockey game, or I'm here to be with my team. I'm here to belong in a certain sense, you know. And the same with a movie, perhaps there's something that resonates. So I'm like, I can connect with this movie in some way. But if we take those thoughts away, or we say, oh, you know, I'm just going to sit here and enjoy it, whatever, even if it's a horror movie kind of thing, or even if my team lose, I'm just going to sit here and let it all go kind of thing. It's the idea that I suppose that perhaps that the thought and emotion has become its energetic form rather than a thing of, if you see what I mean. It's
Yeah.
the formless manifesting the form. Because we live in those two parts. We live in the spiritual part and we live in the human form, like skin, nose, eyes, and also the thoughts that create the form in our minds. So if and again, you know, it's going back to this idea of it's going to be kind of normal from a human point of view to want to hang on to it. Like, I want my consciousness to be thinking these things. Because if the alternative is nothing, it's just a space, it's the void, it's pure energy. Again, what do we have left? So that's kind of the pull, you know, stay here. It's a little bit like when you see in the movies, you know, the what was it, Ghost? You know, and they're about to die, and the lover is looking on, and sort of they're looking over from the top, and it's the pull, you know, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. But the human form has ended, and they don't want to go, they don't want to go. That's the pull. You know, it's back to the consciousness, but it's in the form. Don't know, just a wild idea popped into my head.
It's interesting to me, because, like, I mean, in the context of the example I was giving, it's like the fun of being in that energy. But he says here on my page 99, the reward for not protecting your psyche is liberation. You're just having fun experiencing whatever happens next because you got rid of the scared part of you. You don't ever have to worry about getting hurt or disturbed. So it's like there's this fun of just the flow.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of thinking as I read that, like in my example of being at the game, it's like I can experience it, the flow, the energy, and it doesn't matter if we win or we lose, or if the Stanley Cup drought goes for another 55 years. It's all right. Because I'm not worried about being disturbed or hurt. There's a recognition that you know that's not who I really am. I'm not at risk. So to me, it's almost like once you realize all that, you can go all in. Like I can go
Yes, you can go all in. Yeah.
Experience. I don't have to worry about whether I like it or don't like it or get hurt or not hurt. Whatever happens, it's fine. I go and enjoy it, and I come home to myself, and I'm fine. And I can be like, "Wow, that was a great experience. What's next?" It's the kind of and not clinging to it, not holding on to it if it's a disturbance. Just be.
It's like in that space you're beyond that survival instinct. Like you know you're fine, and because like all four of us has been through this journey over the last few years of having glimpses to who we truly are, and no matter what happens, we're going to be okay, and that allows that space for us to, you know, have experiences of go all in, like you said, and then come home going, oh yeah, that's done. And I think what allows that is that expansion of consciousness, or like the level of consciousness, the more that we experience this, lack of a better word, not higher level, like more broader levels of it, going, oh, it's like the survival thing kind of applies more to the human form, not so much to our spirit form.
A metaphor that's coming to my mind is of a roller coaster. Like, the reason you can go on a roller coaster, even if it's the scariest one there is, like, it's safe. You're okay fundamentally. But during the ride, you're going to be terrified at moments. You're going to be exhilarated at moments. But what allows you to strap yourself into that seat is, an overarch, like, you're not at risk. You're not actually putting your life on the line.
Yeah.
It's kind of
So-
like, you're who you really are. You can strap into the scariest parts of life and go for the ride, knowing that when it's done, you'll be okay. And you'll have a good story to tell in a fun picture.
Yeah, that speaks to me of the Sid Banks quote, people weren't afraid of their experience. And on. That's what would happen, kind of thing.
Right now in this country, there's a very dramatic event happening. We're voting on who the next president will be. That's today. And I have noticed that I know what's going on. I know what the stakes are. And I'm seeing it just as an experience where I don't know, I can count at least 3 people, there's probably more in the last week, who are terrified of what's going to happen. They are absolutely terrified of what their life will be like if a certain outcome happens. And, that's the difference. I'm okay with whatever happens, and I'm fully engaged in the process. But I'm not worried about the outcome. These other friends of mine are lost. They're lost right now in all the what ifs and the fears and the insecurities, and many of them can't see through it right now till we find out what happens today. And it's so interesting. But I think that's the difference between knowing who you are and being looking at what's going on from the seat of consciousness. It doesn't mean I'm not involved in the world. I am involved in the world, but it just means it's not even that I don't care about the outcome. I do care about the outcome. I'm not attached to the outcome, though. I'm not, it doesn't feel life-threatening to me, where I know several people who do feel that way.
It's very real to them, isn't it?
Very real to them. And they're terrified, absolutely terrified. It doesn't matter what I say. I can't help them right now. They're just so lost in it. And they've spent a lot of time thinking about it.
The machine has spent a lot of time and money pouring energy in that direction for everybody,
Right.
to generate the fear and the
and it's even like it's in a way not even in their control to a certain extent, because when these terrorist fears come up, it just completely takes over and completely engulfed. And unless, you know, they have an insight or they've been with somebody, you know, who offer a different perspective and their window of awareness, you know, it gets a little wider. Yeah, that's the world. And I'm just reflecting, earlier today, I was playing with this new gadget to clean some of the windows that I can't reach from the outside. And it's this magnetic device. You stick the both pieces onto the window and you move it around. And even though I had a tether to it, I realized there was this terror coming up of this piece coming off and falling, you know, from and I'm going, wow, this is really interesting. Everything is so safe. But the reaction was, it's still there. The whole experience, I'm like, this is really interesting. I was aware enough to watch it, but also, you know, it was strong enough for me to also be so caught up with it. And I can really appreciate when people are going through something, like you said, when I said something as dramatic as this, how easy it would be. And a lot of these realities are so invisible to us until that external stimuli brings it out, going, okay, it's time to look at this, you know.
Well, the necessary reminds me of what we talked about early in this chapter, that those people, their survival, like they believe their very survival hangs in the balance of whatever happens today with the vote. So they're in I think, I don't know, the nature of these campaigns are they're so long, but it's imagine being a deer in a headlight for 6 months. Anxiety and like you're in a fight or flight mode like 24/7 for months and months and months. Never mind 6 months, it's 6 years or 9 years or however long it's been that things have been so heightened. But I love what you said about your tether on your cleaning thing, because it made me think of when we go camping and I pull my trailer, I need like 3 levels of fail safes. Like I've got a tie strap, I've got bungee cords, I've got pull zip ties, and my wife's like, I think it's good. And I'm like, no, but like if the strap fails, I need to have like a zip tie to back it up, because I don't want to be the guy whose stuff falls into the road halfway down the highway and responsible for killing somebody, or I don't know, whatever. But yeah, it's amazing how, like, literally in my mind, as I'm zip tying something to the trailer, I'm envisioning mass chaos on the highway of like a 20-car pileup because of something falling off my thing.
Yeah. And this circles back to that pull Michael was talking about, you know, how when this reality comes in, like that, the way how it looks to me is that's the me identified with my ego aspect. To me, this is real. This is a thing, you know.
Yeah.
He makes this point here on page 101. You really do have the ability to disengage and fall back behind them. Like it's just knowing that, like if you just take that verbatim, like knowing that that's a thing, like you have the ability to disengage. Like all the people that are caught up in the election today in the US, like, you know, I bet if you told them they had the ability to disengage, they'd be like, get away from me.
I'm not sure to what degree the circumstances are different. I'm wondering, 2 elections ago, I'm imagining these people, some of the people who are terrified might have been terrified as well. And if the worst outcome, you know, they were hoping not to happen, I wonder if they would consider, well, they got through those however many years that happened after that election. And but we often forget that, oh, hang on, that happened to me 20 years ago and I got through it, I survived it, but I'm worrying about it again 20 years later on, you know, until I did get through it and I'm okay.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, there's something to be said for gratitude almost, as a regular practice. Even just that simple act of looking back and saying, well, here I am today, despite everything I've been through, what you were saying, as Anka, I've been through all this stuff. And yet, isn't that amazing? I'm still here. And I think kind of adding the act of being grateful for that sort of makes it more powerful, and it's a reminder that of course we're here today. It's the
I can just see that the voice in my head going, yeah, but this time it's different. Yeah, but
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what it does.
Yeah.
I highlight this part. It says you have the ability to not go with any of these thoughts. You can just sit in the seat of consciousness and let go. This technique of freeing yourself is done with the understanding that thoughts and emotions are just objects of consciousness. If you want to be free, then every time you feel a change in the energy flow, relax behind it. Don't fight with it, or don't try to change it, and don't judge it. It's actually letting go of the pull of that energy itself has on your consciousness.
Yeah.
That letting go piece, and falling or stepping behind it, and these are words and descriptions of an experience, and I was curious about how do I actually experience when these moments happen, when I get that pull. And about actually 2 hours before this call, I was just getting ready for the evening, and I had this overwhelming, feeling state come over, to the point it felt so overwhelming, like, okay, I'm gonna have a lie down on the couch. This is so much. And the moment I lie down, I'm like, wow, this is really heavy. And I'm like, is it heavy because of the feeling itself, or is it heavy because I'm thinking it's heavy? And I thought, I'm just gonna move into or let in that belief that this is heavy. And as I let that in, the whole thing began to shift. And I'm talking seconds, like not even minutes. And I was completely out of it. And in that moment, it was just an experience of how powerful it is. Our consciousnesses, which is what Michael is pointing to, like your stuff is powerful, but your consciousness is even more powerful. And what I saw was, well, we have to look in the direction to step into our consciousness, because while we are caught up in it, believing it's true, oh yeah, we're in the power of it, because at the end of the day, it is still consciousness that is in the stuff. But it's real. It's really true, to the fact that you can have an instant change. You don't have to get so bogged down with it for hours or days on end. And I think, to me, that it is that experience of that constant letting go. To me, I guess the way how it made sense for me is constant letting it in without that push.
For me, the semantics of the in or go or whatever, it's a different interpretations or ways of relating to controlling it. So for him, letting go is not having control of it. For you, not having control of it is letting it in, because you're kind of keeping it at bay. But I think it's the same. It sounds like it's the same thing.
Yeah, like in and through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's just relax. When I'm relaxed, I'm open and things just flow through.
Yeah.
But it's what's important is finding the way it works for you to get it.
Yeah.
I like he told a story about a pen. The price of freedom today is just a pencil, and it reminded me of my daughter when she was in kindergarten. Some other girl stole her pencil or pencil crayon or something, and she had like 10 years she had a grudge against that girl. Like, she stole that pencil. Like, let it go.
Mhm.
It was so important to her, it was life and death, but
Yeah.
It was a
She
violation of
identified
her.
with it.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. I think back to like when I was raising my kids, it was like, I think I was overzealous on my the need to black and white, like right and wrong. Like there's things you do and there's things you don't do, and we try to never do the things you're not supposed to do. And when I look back now, it's like, oh, what man, like there's so much of my own stuff involved in like, why is it so important that people see me as a good parent? Why, it's less about my kid being out in the world and more about what people are going to think of me as the parent of that or that kid is doing. Like, there are all these kind of revelations as I've been doing all this work kind of come up to me and going like, holy cow, I never saw that, but it's true.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It comes back to just being able to see whatever each to our own, whatever the truth is for us, but to see that in its entirety. Because when you can see, you don't actually have, there's no act of, I would imagine, there's actually, if you can see the flow of consciousness, if you can see that this is how it works, then there is no letting go to do, because you're not holding on to anything in the first place. It's just flowing. So therefore you don't even have to let it go. It's gone already.
Yeah. I guess in the end, like he talks about practicing and doing all this stuff. Like if once you get to a place where your heart is just open, you don't really have to go into the valve room anymore to keep opening and closing it. It's just leave it open. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I began to envision that the spiritual heart he talks about, the heart chakra, like with a black hole, like it's about sucking all the energy in it. It's black, whereas with the heart chakra, it's like a white hole. It's like giving the energy out. But the piece that actually was really helpful for me is, well, where does this vortex, this chakra, where does it connect to? And what occurred to me is, well, it connects to the formless. So, and that just made me go quiet, going, oh, well, there's nothing more to say or think anymore. It's really beyond the comprehension in a beautiful way. And I love he refers to energy center. So I think he's pointing to the other chakras of the body. I don't know if he talks about it in the up and coming chapters. Yeah, so it's really cool.
Well, I suppose if because he's talking a bit about heart and the root chakra, the one that keeps you grounded, keeps you safe.
So that must, well, it sounds to me like these different chakras, different energy centers, they're all connected to the formless space, but they all bring out different types of energy. That's obviously helpful as a human being. I'm imagining, I don't know.
Yeah, I would imagine that's how it is too. Yeah. Yeah. They kind of each have their own little jobs to do, sort of thing.
Maybe we'll wrap this up. I'll just read a bit from the last page of my book. It says, no matter what events take place in life, it's always better to let go rather than to close. And in the very last sentence, you will then be free to explore the nature and source of your true being, pure consciousness. And that sets us part 3 of the book called Freeing Yourself.
Because when we close, we also close the good stuff too, don't we? It's not just the
I just had an image of like a sign on a store window, closed. Like, get out of here. Versus being open for business and being welcoming, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Open for life.
Yeah.
Open for life. I like that.
Yeah, open for life. And sometimes, people with the smaller business owners, they kind of forget to turn the sign round, and then they wonder why there's no business coming in.
I went to a fish and chip shop
But it's the same thing, like
for lunch, and I went in.
we forget to do it.
Yeah, and there's nobody in there. And I said to the lady, I said, "Oh, by the way, your sign still says closed." And it was a husband and wife running this restaurant. And the husband just like turned around and yelled at her. And I was like, "Oh, I wish I hadn't said anything."
No wonder no business
They were
today.
probably in there going like, "Where is everybody? It's lunch. Like, where's the usual lunch rush?"
Yeah.
Well, their sign was flipped to closed.
Yeah. Think how many opportunities we miss closing
Because our sign is flipped.
samskara. Yeah, our sign is flipped.
Yeah.
Because when we are close, we're not present, are we? We're not in the moment.
No.
Yeah.
I think next week we'll have our full complement. Lynne will be back with us, so looking forward to that next week. I think this has been fun.
Yeah. Thanks.